Hello, my friends. My name is Silas Crawford, and I have bought rusty cast iron skillets for $15 that looked like they belonged in a scrap pile, cleaned them carefully, identified what they really were, and watched their value jump into the hundreds or even thousands. That does not happen because rust is magical. It happens because most people price what they can see while I buy what I can identify. A rough skillet at a yard sale, flea market, estate sale, church bazaar, or thrift store can look identical to 10 ordinary pans until you turn it over and find the right logo, size, pattern number, heat ring, or early casting mark. That is the whole game today. I am going to show you 10 specific cast iron pieces I look for when I'm hunting, what makes me put $15 on the table, what makes me walk away, how I restore them without destroying the value, and where I sell them afterward. Before we begin, tell me where you are watching from and whether you have ever bought a rusty skillet simply because it felt old. And stay with me to number 3, because that is where one cast size can turn an awkward giant pan into a trophy collectors will chase. The truth is, not every old skillet is valuable. Plenty of common cast iron sells for modest money. The profit comes from knowing the maker, era, size, rarity, and condition before the seller does. I want smooth vintage iron, good marks, no cracks, no serious warping, and rust that is only on the surface. Deep pitting is different. Once corrosion eats craters into the cooking surface, no restoration makes that original metal come back. Quick favor before we start reading bottoms. If you like learning how I spot undervalued antiques before somebody else recognizes them, subscribe to the channel. Every week, I break down the marks, models, dates, restoration mistakes, and buying clues that can turn a $15 garage sale find into a serious collector piece. And the next one may be sitting under a stack of junk in your town this weekend. Now, let me show you the first thing I do before I buy any rusty skillet. I turn it over. Most of the information is on the bottom and near the top of the handle. I use side light from a flashlight because shallow cast lettering throws shadows even when rust and grease hide the details. I wipe away loose dirt, but I do not start grinding or polishing. I'm looking for maker, logo, size number, pattern number, heat ring, and gate mark. Griswold is the name you need to understand first. And if the bottom says only Erie with no Griswold cross, you are usually looking at pre-1909 production, and collectors pay attention. The slant logo has Griswold and angled lettering with Erie in the cross, and dates roughly from 1909 through 1939. The large block logo uses bold block lettering inside the cross, roughly from the 1920s through 1940, and it is one of the most desirable Griswold eras. The small block logo, usually without Erie, runs roughly from 1940 through 1957 and is generally less valuable. Then there's the Erie Spider from the 1890s with a web-like design around the name. That is one of the pieces I dream about finding under bad seasoning and barn rust. Wagner ware is another major target. Look for Wagner ware in an arc with Sydney -O- underneath for Sydney, Ohio. And next, I check the bottom construction. And a gate mark is a raised scar left from 19th century sand mold casting. It is not the same thing as a heat ring. A heat ring is the raised circular ring around the outer bottom, designed to fit an old wood or coal stove opening. Heat rings were common through roughly the end of the 1930s and usually push a piece toward an earlier era. Then I run my fingers across the cooking surface. Pre-1957 iron from the great vintage makers was often machine smooth, sometimes almost glass-like. Many later pieces and reproductions have a pebbled orange peel texture. That difference is one of the fastest ways I avoid modern copies pretending to be rare. Then I read the numbers correctly. Cast size numbers from 0 through 14 plus 20 refer to old stove eyes, not inches. A number 8 is roughly 10.5 inches. A number 13 is around 14 inches and genuinely scarce. A number 20 is the giant hotel size. Separate from that is the 3 or 4 digit pattern number, sometimes followed by a letter, which lets me cross-reference the exact casting and collector guides. Before money changes hands, I set the skillet on something flat. If it rocks badly or spins, warping can kill the flip. I check the rim and handle junction for cracks. I feel the cooking surface for deep pitting. Surface rust does not scare me. Cracks, serious warping, and deep pitting do. That is the difference between buying a restoration project and buying a permanent problem. Number 10 on my list is the Griswold slant logo Erie Skillet from the early 20th century. I look for the angled Griswold lettering, Erie inside the cross, a smooth machined surface, and often a heat ring. This is one of the easiest ways into serious Griswold collecting because the logo is famous, attractive, and easy to explain to buyers. After proper restoration, realistic values often land around $150 to $400, with unusual sizes and exceptional condition going higher. If I see one buried under old carbon for $15 or $20 and the iron underneath feels sound, I do not hesitate long. The key is not the rust, it is the logo, size, and condition under the rust. Number 9 is the Griswold small block logo from roughly 1940 through 1957. This one is later and less rare, but it is still authentic Griswold and very usable, which makes it easy to resell. Look for the smaller block logo without Erie, usually no heat ring, and that familiar smooth cooking surface. Common sizes can sell from the tens into a few $100s depending on condition. This is not usually the skillet that turns $15 in the thousands, but it is a bread and butter flip. I like pieces that sell reliably because they fund the hunt for the rarities. Number 8 is Wagner Ware number 8 from Sydney, Ohio. I look for Wagner Ware arched across the bottom, Sydney-O-, a polished surface, relatively light casting, and heat rings on older examples. Wagner was Griswold's great competitor, and collectors still respect the machining quality. Many examples live in the hundreds after restoration, while rare or unusually pristine variants can reach around $5,000 at the extreme high end. That does not mean every Wagner number 8 is a $5,000 skillet. It means exact era, variant, size, and condition decide the ceiling. If you found a Sydney-O- Wagner for $15 this weekend, would you restore it yourself or keep it exactly as found? Tell me below. Number 7 is the Griswold large block logo from roughly the 1920s through 1940. Look for bold block Griswold lettering inside the cross, usually with Erie, and pay extra attention to versions with a heat ring. Large block plus heat ring is a combination collectors notice immediately. Restored examples commonly sit in the hundreds, and rare sizes can rise sharply. When I buy one, I photograph the marks before I strip anything because documentation matters. I also check flatness twice. A beautiful logo does not rescue a skillet that rocks badly on a glass surface. Number 6 is the Wapak Indian head. This one has one of the most recognizable bottoms in cast iron. Look for the profile of a Native American chief with a headdress and inspect how crisp the casting is. Larger sizes are harder to find, and dedicated Wapak collectors chase them. After restoration, values can run roughly from $200 to more than $1,200, depending on size, rarity, and condition. Reproductions exist in the broader cast iron market, so I do not buy from the logo alone. I cross the casting quality, weight, surface texture, handle, and bottom construction. Number 5 is the Griswold cornbread or corn stick pan. It is not a round skillet at all. It has cavities shaped like ears of corn, with Griswold markings and a pattern number on the reverse. Common patterns can sell for tens, while scarcer patterns and strong marked examples move into the hundreds. These are great flips because sellers often see novelty bakeware while collectors see a specific pattern they may need. I photograph every cavity, the back, the maker mark, and the pattern number before listing. Number 4 is Pico-Ware number 12, the smiley, especially from the 1920s. The curved logo creates the famous smiling face appearance on the bottom. The number 12 matters because it is the largest smiley size, and the cooking surface should feel exceptionally smooth. Good large examples can sell in the hundreds and are genuinely difficult to find. This is a piece where size, logo, and condition work together. A common small pica is one thing. A clean number 12 smiley is another. Favorite pica, Sydney Hollowware, Excelsior Steelware, Martin Stove and Range, early Erie pieces, and even unmarked 19th century pans with legitimate gate marks can also be worth buying when the construction and condition make sense. I do not ignore a pan merely because Griswold is absent. I just demand stronger evidence elsewhere. Before we move into the top 3, remember this: the flip is won before restoration begins. I do not manufacture value with chemicals. I reveal value that was already there. If the maker is wrong, the size is common, the skillet is cracked, badly warped, or deeply pitted, no amount of polishing turns it into a rare collector piece. But when a good mark, scarce size, smooth surface, and removable rust come together for $15, that is when I reach for my wallet. Number 3 is the Griswold number 20 hotel skillet with a large block logo. And this is the sort of thing that can make me forget every ordinary pan on the table. It is enormous. Look for the number 20 and the large block Griswold cross on the bottom. Remember, 20 is not the diameter in inches. It is an old stove-size designation, and this is the giant hotel category. Collectors treat these as trophy pieces because they are difficult to store, difficult to find, and spectacular when displayed. Properly restored examples can sell around $1,000 to $1,800 or more. Before I buy one, I test it carefully for warping because giant castings had a hard life. I inspect the handle junction, rim, and bottom for cracks. I would rather buy ugly surface rust than beautiful black seasoning over a hidden crack. Number 2 is the Griswold number 13, roughly 14 inches across and associated with early production. This number has a reputation because far fewer survive than the familiar number 8. Look for 13, then study the exact logo. Early Erie markings are strong. A heat ring adds early character, and unusual early features make collectors look even harder. Restored examples can approach roughly $1,500 to $2,000, depending on era and condition. The mistake beginners make is seeing 13 and assuming it means 13 inches. It does not. These size numbers match stove openings. If I find a legitimate number 13 at an estate sale where every skillet is priced at $15, I do not stand there explaining rarity to the seller. I inspect it for cracks, flatness, pitting, and authenticity, and then I buy it. Number 1 is the Griswold Spider or Erie Spider from the 1890s. This is the holy grail. Turn the skillet over and look for the famous spider and web design around the Erie name. The mark was used briefly, which is why surviving originals command such attention. I want the rest of the skillet to tell the same early story. Light casting, a beautifully smooth cooking surface, convincing handle construction, and period bottom characteristics that can include early heat ring or gate-related features depending on the piece. Genuine examples can sell around $1,500 to $3,000, while exceptional examples have passed $8,000. And yes, that is exactly why reproductions exist. A dramatic spider logo is not enough. Many modern copies have mushy casting and a rough orange peel cooking surface, where an authentic early pan should feel finely machined. I cross the logo, weight, handle, surface, size, casting quality, and bottom construction before I buy. Now, suppose you actually found one of these pans for $15. This is where people destroy the flip. Restoration creates the presentation, and usability buyers pay for, but only if you preserve the iron. I divide the work into 3 phases: stripping old seasoning and carbon, removing rust, then re-seasoning. Before any of that, I evaluate the surface with my fingers. Superficial rust feels like fine sandpaper. Deep pitting feels cratered, porous, or almost sponge-like. Surface rust is usually fixable. Deep pitting is missing metal. It does not come back. I also treat a rare spider differently from a common daily driver skillet. On an important collector piece, I use the gentlest preservation-minded method possible. On a common user pan, I have more freedom. Phase 1 is stripping the old seasoning and baked on carbon. One common method is lye-based oven cleaner. In the United States, people often use the yellow can of Easy Off Heavy Duty because it contains lye. The blue fume-free version does not work the same way because it does not contain the same lye chemistry. I spray the piece according to the product directions, seal it in a heavy plastic bag, let the cleaner work, then rinse and repeat when necessary. The point is that lye dissolves organic seasoning and carbon without grinding away the iron. If I am restoring several ordinary pieces in volume, a properly prepared lye tank can do the same job. But this is caustic chemistry, not dish soap. I wear chemical-resistant gloves and eye protection, work in a ventilated area, keep children and animals away, and follow the product instructions. When preparing a lye solution, lye goes into the water. Never water onto concentrated lye because the reaction produces heat and can splash. And I never mix cleaning chemicals. Some restorers also use heat to burn off old carbon, such as a controlled oven cycle around 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat can attack seasoning, but it does not remove rust. I do not throw collectible cast iron into a fire. Uncontrolled heat can warp or damage the piece, and an aggressive fire is not worth gambling with a rare skillet. Phase 2 is rust removal. For light rust, a 50-50 mixture of white vinegar and water can work, but timing matters. I submerge the iron for about 30 minutes and check it every 15 minutes. I do not let valuable bare iron sit forgotten for hours. Around 1 hour is my maximum target because acid eventually starts etching good metal, not just rust. After the soak, I scrub gently with number 0 or 00 steel wool or an appropriate stainless scrubber. Another option is Evapo-Rust. It is slower, reusable, and gentler, which makes it attractive for delicate pieces or when I am processing several items without wanting acid to keep biting into the iron. For heavy rust and crust, electrolysis is my gold standard non-abrasive option. A typical setup uses a suitable tub, water, washing soda such as Arm & Hammer washing soda, a sacrificial piece of appropriate steel, and a compatible power source configured for the process. I keep electrical connections and safety considerations in mind and follow equipment guidance rather than improvising around water and electricity. The reason collectors like electrolysis is that it can remove stubborn rust without mechanically grinding the original surface away, whatever method I choose. I do not attack collectible iron with a sander or rotary wire wheel. Those tools can erase machining marks, soften logos, change the cooking surface, and permanently reduce collector value. Phase 3 is reseasoning. The moment bare iron is clean, I dry it immediately because flash rust can appear in minutes. I towel it, then warm the pan on the stove or in the oven until it is completely dry. Next comes an extremely thin coat of fat. Flaxseed oil, grapeseed oil, ordinary vegetable oil, or Crisco can all be used. The trick is not the brand. The trick is quantity. I rub on a microscopic film and then wipe it back off as if putting the oil on had been a mistake. The surface should look nearly dry, not wet and shiny. Too much oil creates sticky, blotchy seasoning. Then I bake the skillet upside down around 450 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit for about 1 hour and let it cool in the oven. I repeat that thin coat cycle roughly 3 to 6 times until the surface is dark, smooth, and uniform. That is how a $15 rust bucket becomes something a buyer can immediately imagine using. But presentation is only half the resale. The other half is selling in the right place. For collectible Griswold, Wagner, Wapak Pika, and rare early iron, eBay remains one of the most useful national markets because collectors across the country can compete for the same piece. Before listing anything, I search completed listings and turn on the sold filter. I care about what actually sold, not what somebody hopes to get. I matchmaker, logo era, size, pattern number, heat ring, condition, and restoration quality as closely as possible. Etsy can work well for restored vintage iron because buyers there respond to the historical and decorative side. Facebook Marketplace is useful for fast local sales where heavy shipping costs can kill the deal. Dedicated Facebook groups for Griswold, Wagner, and cast iron buy-sell trade communities can be even better because buyers already understand the marks and may pay appropriately for scarce pieces. Mercari and Craigslist are additional direct sale options. Offline is where I often buy cheapest. Weekend garage sales and yard sales are classic hunting grounds. Flea markets and swap meets let you scan dozens of vendors in one morning. Estate sales are my favorite because that is where inherited kitchenware can appear with one blanket price, like $15 a pan. Antique malls and rented booths are useful for selling restored common and mid-range pieces to shoppers who want to touch the iron before buying. Collector fairs and dedicated cast iron shows are where I would rather bring the top material because knowledgeable buyers understand what a number 13 hotel skillet or rare logo means. Photography matters too. I photograph the entire cooking surface so buyers can see smoothness. I show the bottom logo under clean light. I show the size and pattern number. I show the heat ring, handle, rim, and any flaws. A restored and correctly seasoned pan usually presents better than one sold under an inch of carbon and rust, but I never hide damage. If there is pitting, warping, or a hairline issue, I disclose it. Reputation makes the next sale easier. And remember, all the values I have mentioned are estimates. Market prices move with maker, era, size, rarity, condition, and buyer demand. Real auction and sold listing numbers are evidence, not guarantees. A common Wagner or Griswold is not automatically worth thousands. The profit comes from knowing which exact casting you are holding. Chemical restoration also carries real risks. So follow the safety instructions on every product, use proper protective equipment, ventilate the work area, and never mix chemicals. So here's my routine when I walk into an estate sale. I flip every skillet over, I read the logo, I use side light, I check the size number and pattern number, I look for a gate mark or heat ring, I feel the cooking surface. I test flatness. I reject cracks and deep pitting. If the pan passes, I check sold prices before I get emotionally attached. Then I restore with the least aggressive method that will do the job, season it properly, photograph it honestly, and put it in front of the buyers who understand it. That is the real $15 to thousands formula. Identification first, restoration second, market third. Which one would you most want to find under a folding table this weekend? A number 13, a number 20 hotel skillet, or an eerie spider covered in rust with a $15 sticker on the handle? Tell me below. The money is not in buying every rusty skillet you see. It is in knowing which rusty skillet everyone else walked past.